index function is also a lookup function. So when I say a lookup function, it allows you to grab detail from a table or from a range or from a particular place in your sheet based on a given lookup value. Okay, so it begs the question, since I have VLOOKUP, why do I need match and index? Now, match and index does not need your lookup value to be in the leftmost column. Remember that if it was VLOOKUP will make sure that you would need your lookup value to be in the leftmost column in your selection. But match and index does not need that. It's not compulsory. Okay. Now, how do we make use of the match and index? First, let us look at the match function. Then we look at the index function, and then we look at the two of them together. Okay, so the match function first. And we look at what the match function does. Okay, pay attention to what the match function does. I'm going to start with equal to. I'm going to insert it here. Now, this is what I want to do. This is the end goal. I think let me take it this way so that you understand it easily. I have this data here, this table. Okay, I have this data in this table here. And the goal is to, for each one of these dates, okay, for each one of these dates over here, I want to get the income amount. Okay, so for 20th of August, I want to get the income amount. For 19th of August, I want to get the income amount. So where is the date? 20th of August, 19th of August. This is the income, isn't it? Then for the other date as well, September, I want to get the income in here. Okay, so you can tell me, oh, you can easily use VLOOKUP, isn't it? Yes. But how do we make use of match and index as well? Now, this is the idea. The match function will help me to return the row number of the desired output. Okay, or the row number of the income, the row number of the inputs. Okay, and then the index function will use that row number to get the desired output. What do I mean? I want to get the income for 20th of August. This is how it will work. The match function, when I use the match function on this date for this table, it will count the number of rows 1, 2, 3. 20th of August is in row number 3, isn't it? So the match function will return 3 in here. I will now use the index function to say, go to row number 3 in this column, income column. So income column, to just go row number 1, row number 2, row number 3. So it will now bring 190,000. So for 5th of September, it will count how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way down here. So let's say this is row 15. Okay, the match function will return 15 here. Then the index function will now say, okay, row 15, Abi, to now come to the income column, row 15. And it will now return the value that is in row 15. Okay, so let's now work with it. Pay attention. Equals to match, open brackets. So you can see that it's asking for what? Lookup value. That's why I call it a lookup function. The same way, what's it called? The VLOOKUP as well will ask for a lookup value. Okay, and let me quickly chip this in. I think I have plenty of people in class now. There is a special drive, a special Google Sheet that contains extra resources. I've been building it and building that sheet. Okay, it contains extra resources linked to YouTube videos on various Excel, techniques that we've taught here in class, Power BI, SQL. Then it also contains links to some website that can give remote job, that you can get remote jobs from. It contains a link to some extra resources as well if you want to upskill, okay? And we don't just give the link anyhow out, okay? We only give it to those that successfully complete the program. And what do I mean by successfully complete the program? Submit at the end of the entire program, okay, you've met requirements for attendance, tests, assignments, projects, okay? The project has been reviewed, and then what's it called? Your video testimonial too has been submitted, and then your certificate is given to you. Good. So as your certificate is given to you, you are getting the link to that Google Sheet as well. Okay, so it's just like a bonus from me for appreciating you completing the entire program. Okay, so let me just insert that. Now back to the match function. And the match function allows you to make use of a lookup value. All right, so what is the value I'm looking for? I'm looking for 20th of August. Okay, thanks in advance. Yeah, so that means you need to meet all the requirements: attendance, test, assignments, projects, video testimonial, and your certificates. Okay, so if you do that, yes, definitely. Now the lookup value, when I click on this date, that's cell B3, isn't it? Okay, cell B3. Now the lookup array, comma, what's the lookup array? This is the lookup array. Remember in what's it called, in the VLOOKUP formula, what will he ask you for? Something similar to lookup array. Let me see. That's like a sample test question. In the VLOOKUP, what does it call it? Very good. Good. I can see those people that have been practicing. Very good. He calls it table array, but here he calls it lookup array. Okay. All right. Now the lookup array is quite similar to the table array. Okay, but there's a slight difference here this time around. Now the lookup array is a single column. You know, your table array is an entire table, big, vast table. Okay, your lookup array is just a single column. All right, just one column. Now that column is where it can find your lookup value. Okay, so which column would that be in this table? So where can we find the lookup value 20th of August? Which column is that? Nice, the date column. Beautiful. Okay, very good. The date column, column 1. Nice. So lookup array, I'm going to highlight this range to the bottom like this. Do you see that? I started from the header, dates, and I highlight to the bottom. That is my lookup array. So you can see, because it is called an array, it means that it must be a range. It is a range. Okay? That is your lookup array. Now, comma. The match type. What's the match type we always use? Exact match, isn't it? Now, this time around, exact match is denoted by 0. In the VLOOKUP, it is denoted by what? False. Okay? You don't need to bother yourself about what is denoted by or not. Okay, you just select exact match, press your tab key, and then close your brackets. Okay, then I'm going to do what? I'm going to make use of absolute reference on my array. And then whenever we're talking about an array, okay, it's usually good to make use of absolute reference on it. So I'm going to use absolute reference here, and then I'll finally press enter. Okay, I finally press enter. All right, now you can see what it shows me immediately. It says 20th of August is in row number 3. Okay, when you are selecting your lookup array, because of this date or this table is not starting from the top, I cannot just select this column like this. Okay, that's the reason why I just selected the range of cells. All right. So once I do that, I double click here to get the remaining ones as well. Okay. So do you see that now? You see that 20th of August is in row number 3. 19th of August is in row number 2. 27th of August, it says row number 10. Let's confirm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you see that? So the match function is simply returning the row index number of the value you are looking for. So the value you are looking for is just like saying, I give you an order that, okay, go into a particular classroom, okay, and tell me where Malik Akintola is. You just go into the classroom. You don't come back and tell me, oh, he's in column 3, row 5. Okay, or let's say there's only one column in that classroom. You just tell me, oh, Malik is in row 5. That is what the match function does. Okay, so it will return the row number for that value that you're looking for. Okay, so you see how it works easily. Now, for the index function, or should I take the match function again? Let's take it again. For the match function, once again, you start with equals to. Match. Open bracket. The lookup value is the date. Okay? I click on the cell. It shows B3 because that is the cell reference. Okay? Comma. The lookup array is what? Where I can find my lookup value, this range. I'll select the range, highlight it all the way down. Okay? Then, the match type, comma, is exact match. So I'll scroll down and press my tab key to select 0, and I'll close the bracket. You can also insert 0 yourself. Then I will highlight this and use my absolute reference on it. So for those of you that have just joined in and you are just hearing of absolute reference for the first time, you can activate that by pressing your F4 key F4 on your keyboard. Okay, if that does not work, you can input it manually. It's simply you inserting your $sign. So you'll start by inserting $sign before the letter, and then immediately after the letter as well. Do the same thing for the second part. Before the letter like this, immediately after the letter. That is your absolute reference. And then you press enter. Okay, so I did not select my old data because it asked for lookup array. Okay, not the table array. All right, so I will double click this so that it will do the same thing all the way down. Okay, now for the index function, okay, say you have your row numbers like this. You now want to get a value on a particular row. So in this table on row number 3, remember this is row 3. So I can get any of these values. I can get the ID, the first name, the last name, the email, the gender, the company, the city, the income on row number 3. Anyone you want. For now, we want to get the income. Okay, we want to get the income now. All right, so how do we go about doing that? Oh, very easily. I start with equals to. Equals to what? Index. Now, the index we ask for first an array. Okay, now it says array. please pay attention. It asks for just array, not lookup array or table array. And the reason is because I can either give an entire table or just one column, but I prefer to just give a column. Okay, so the column I want to get is the income column, isn't it? So I will highlight the column all the way down. That is the income column. That's column J, row 17 to row 37. So that's J17 to J37. Okay, and then the row number I want to get is row number 3, which is this one. So I click on this one and then I close my brackets. Now I'll highlight this and use absolute referencing and press enter. You see automatically that it grabs the value in row number 3 there for me. The value in row number 3 is what? 190,000. Okay, so this is kind of like similar to how VLOOKUP works. Okay, so if I do this, I can click and drag like this. Isn't it? Now, let me insert a currency symbol. If I was going to use VLOOKUP for this, how will I use VLOOKUP? Let's use VLOOKUP and see something. I'll simply say equals to VLOOKUP. The lookup value is the date, comma, the table array, good, is my entire table. I will highlight my entire table, everything, you see that. Then the column index number, so is what? My income is in column what? This is column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Isn't it? Row column 9. I'll close my brackets. And I'll make sure I use absolute referencing for my table array, and I'll press enter. You see that it gets the same value. Do you see that? So if I double click and scroll down, you see that I have the same thing when I use the VLOOKUP as well. Okay, I have the same thing as well. Okay, but now what is the limitation of the VLOOKUP function? What advantage does the VLOOKUP function have over the, or what advantage does the match and index function have over the VLOOKUP function? Let me show you the advantage. To do that, I'm going to have to erase everything here. Then I am going to copy or cut this column from here and paste it here. Now see something. The date is in this column. Okay? Now, my match function equals to match, open brackets. The lookup value is this, right? Comma. The lookup array is my dates column. I will highlight my dates column all the way down, comma. The match type is what? Exact match. I press 0 and I'll close my brackets. Remember, I have to use absolute reference for this and press enter. You see that it returns 3 again. Okay? And I'll simply click on that cell where I have the formula. Okay, for the person that asked that question, click on the cell where I have the formula and I will double click the bottom right corner. Do you see that? So if I want to use the index function, I'll just say equals to index open bracket, my array, where is my data I want to get, the income column, I'll highlight it all the way down, comma, then the row number I want to get is row number 3. I select that cell and I close my bracket. So I will highlight this, press my F4 key, press enter. You see immediately that the index function works. I'll double click this and it will do it all the way down. Okay, you can double click or you can drag, okay, but it's best to just double click. All right, you only drag if you don't want it to do for all the way down. Okay, so you see that the index match function, it works, isn't it? But if I now say, let me use my VLOOKUP function on this kind of data, okay, I say equal to VLOOKUP. My lookup value is where? This is my lookup value, comma. My table array is this entire table. I'll highlight the entire table, right? Comma. My column index number, income is in column what now? This is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, column 6, column 7, column 8. So index income is in column 8. And then I'll close the bracket. Okay, I will now use absolute referencing for this. Press enter. Do you see that? And I will double click all the way down. So do you notice something immediately? Sorry about that. There is a mistake. I did not fill the formula finish. So after column index number, range lookup, exact match, which is false. Now press enter. Good. So you see something, it says NA. If I double click, it says NA, NA, NA. The first time it was saying 500,000 when I did not put range lookup. It just gave the last value here for everything, which is totally wrong, isn't it? This time around, when I even put the range lookup type, you can see it's saying NA. So can anybody tell me, what do you think is the cause of this for the VLOOKUP now? Why do you think the VLOOKUP did not work this time around? Why do you think the VLOOKUP? Very good, very good. It seems people are paying attention in this class. Good, good, good. Now, the VLOOKUP did not work because the value we're looking up, which is the date. Date is what we're looking up, isn't it? Now, the date is not in the first column of our selection. This is our table array. For VLOOKUP to work, our date needs to be the first column whenever we're selecting. But here, the date is the last column. Even if the date is in the middle, it won't work unless I make sure that I'm selecting the date first and I'm grabbing data that is after the date. Okay, so it means that if I'm using VLOOKUP, when I want to select my table array, okay, if I'm selecting like this column has to be the lookup column. Okay, this column has to be the lookup column. That is what it means. Okay, so that is the limitation of VLOOKUP. So in this scenario, the VLOOKUP will not work. But you can see I've given you an alternative, the match and index function. Okay, so match and index function, people don't make use of it separately like this. All right, remember, Now in your index function, it asks for a table array or an array first where you want to grab your data from. Then it requests for a row number. Your row number is simply your match function. So you can put your match function inside your index function. Okay? Meaning you can write your formula at once. Someone asked, what if you select from left to right? Seriously? If you select from left to right, like this is how it will still read. It will still read from this place. Okay? It doesn't matter how you select, maybe from left to right or right to left. Okay, once you're done selecting, if you show anybody this, we don't know if you selected from left to right or right to left. Alright, so I hope you get that now. Now, using the index and match function at once together, I will start with the index function first, equals to index. I will tell the index function to give me the value I need, which is in the income column. I'll highlight it, comma. Then it will ask for the row number. The value I want to get is in row number what? I don't know the row number. What can give me the row number? The match function. So I will type match. Okay, so for the match function, I want to get the row number for which value? This date, comma, in which column? Lookup array, this date column. I light it all the way down, comma, match type, exact match. Press my 0, close my bracket for the match function. Okay, I am now back to the index function. So I need to close my bracket for the index function as well. That is 2 closing brackets. And then I press tab. And you can see that using both the index and match function at once, I am able to get what I need. So I will simply use absolute referencing here, because this is an array. I will use absolute referencing here as well, because this is another array. I'll press enter, come here, and I'll double click, and I have this. You see that? Okay? Then I can easily insert my currency symbol. Alright, and that is for the index match function, or match and index. Okay, now to aggregate. Now, what are aggregates? Aggregates or aggregation functions are simply functions in Excel or any other application. They are simply formulas that summarize your data into one value. So do you want to get the sum, which is the total of values? Or do you want to get the minimum? Or do you want to get the maximum? Or do you want to get the average? Or do you want to get the count? Okay, there are other aggregation data. You can get the standard deviation and so on and so forth. All right, now looking at this data, I have a table that contains the date, okay, and the income. So it's a table of income. I said income, sorry, expenses. Okay, it's a table of expenses. All right, now we have the person that incurred the expense. We have the particulars of the expense. Okay, so what was that money spent on? I mean, sorry, just give me a minute, please. Okay, so as I was saying, now, the person that spent the money, what the money was spent on, okay, and then the amount that was spent. Okay, now, I just want to quickly do something. All right, now we have this data and we want to sum, we want to get the minimum, the maximum, the average, and counts of the data. Okay, so this will lead us into count if, count ifs, some ifs. Okay, if I want to get the addition of all these cells all the way down, okay, how do I do that? I can simply make use of the sum function. I'll say equal to sum, open bracket, and then I give the range of numbers starting from here all the way down. Okay, and then I close my brackets for the sum function. So sum what? D2 to D91. I'll press enter. It gives me the sum total, 4,342,719. Assuming I came down here to put the sum, it might not be easily accessible. You have to scroll down, to come and check it, isn't it? But the way I have it here is better, right? So that when you're working on your assignment, you know how you can place your values. If I tell you to get the sum or the count or something, easily place it by the side of the data. Or you can even place it in a new sheet. Okay? If I say, let's say this is a sheet, okay, and then I want to get the sum of those values, I'll simply say equal to sum, open brackets, I'll come back to that sheet. You can see that I already put the name of the sheet there. Okay, and then I'll highlight the range I want to sum, D2 to D91. I'll close my bracket and press enter. You see the value it gives me. I'll put my currency symbol. Is it correct or not? It's very correct. Okay, without stress. All right, so now that is for the sum. All right, so what does the sum do? It totals, it adds up the values in a range of cells. All right, so the minimum, we get the what? Minimum number. So the function is min. You use the min function to get the minimum number in a range of cells. Highlight this all the way down, close my bracket, press enter. This is the minimum amount spent. Do you see that? What is the maximum amount spent? Equals to max. This range again, highlight it all the way down, close my bracket, press enter. This is the maximum amount spent at a time. 98,000. It was more that I spent it on internet. Who did the 98,000? Probably she's subscribing for the whole house. Okay. Now, average. What is average? You know average, the sum of all the numbers divided by the total number, isn't it? So you can easily get this by using the average function, average, open brackets. and then you give the range of values. This range, highlight it all the way down, close the bracket, press enter. So on average, they spend 48,000. On average, each expense takes 48,000. Count and count A. Now, there is a difference between count and count A. Count the number of cells that contains numbers, values. Okay? It counts the number of cells that contain number. Once a cell contains a text, okay, even if it has number without text, once there is a text, a letter, a character that is not a number there, it won't count it. Okay, so how do we use it? Equals to count. I'll highlight from here all the way down, close my bracket, press enter. It says 90. So I have 90 cells that contains values here. Count A is what? Equals to count A. Now count A counts the number of cells that are not empty. Okay? Number of cells that are what? That are not empty. Alright? I'll open my bracket, highlight from here all the way down, close my bracket, and then press enter. Okay, so I have 90, 90. Now, we will now distinguish between the two of them. Remember I said count, we only count cells that contains numbers. Now, imagine, let me look for, okay, so imagine in this cell, okay, I have 300. When I press enter, it still counts it. Okay, it tells me it counts 90 cells. Okay. Please, the attendance link. I've not dropped it. I'll drop it when I want to drop it. Okay. So I'll implore you to stay in class and find out when that will be. All right. Now, it still says it's 90. But imagine a scenario where 300, instead of number 0, is now letter O that is there. It looks like 300, isn't it? But once I press enter, see what happens. It is not formatted as a number. Automatically, the count tells me I have 89 cells. Automatically, count tells me you have 89 cells because now this cell is no longer containing number format. Okay? There is now text there as well. So the count cannot identify that. So it tells you I have 89 cells that contains numbers. But the count A is counting the number of cells that are not empty. So I still have 90 cells because this cell is not empty, isn't it? It's not empty now. But if I have any empty cell, let's say I delete the value in this cell, you see now that the count A also reduced. There's an empty cell. The count reduced to 88 because it are now 2 cells that don't contain numbers. And that is how it is. Okay? So I'm going to undo this to have this back. Alright? Now, if, for instance, okay, I want to count based on a particular criteria, this is where the functions count if, sum if come in. I want to count based on a particular criteria. I want to count the number of father or the number of times father have spent money, the number of times mother have spent money. number of times daughter has spent money, number of times son has spent money. I want to count a particular value in a range of cell. How many times does that value appear? I use the count if. So I am simply saying count this cell if the value is, or if the value in that cell is this. So how do I use it? I say equal to count if. What is the range? The range is that column where you want to count. Which column is that? This is the column. I will highlight the range all the way down. Comma. The criteria is what? Father. I select this cell. Then I close my bracket. That is all. Nothing hard at all. Okay? I will simply use my column, my absolute reference here. Press enter. So it tells me father appears 23 times. When I double click this, pam pam, you see that? It's not hard at all. And that's the count if. Simply, I have a column that contains the names of students, okay, and their scores. And I want to see how many times I have the name Malik in that column. I can simply use my count if. I am counting based on a certain criteria. And let me give you expo now. It is a test question. Okay? The thing is, we don't usually check very well. It is not 12, it is I2. When I click a cell, you should know, and you see something like I2 and it is colored, you should know that this is a cell reference. Okay? I have mentioned this in class close to about 3-4 times. It is not 12. It is a cell reference. You can see that it was immediately I click on this that it appeared. So that should tell you that it is a cell reference. Okay? An absolute reference is simply a reference that has these dollar signs on it. Okay? Meaning, it doesn't matter how you replicate the formula, maybe across the column or across the rows. This reference will not change. Okay? That B1 to B91, it won't change. All right? Sometimes we don't see what we click because of poor network. Oh my God. It's a pity. So you can try switching network and see if other networks will be better. Okay. Now, so you've seen how to count based on a particular criteria. What if I want to count based on a particular criteria as well? Okay. What if I want to sum based on a particular criteria as well? Cell referencing, cell locked. There is nothing like cell locked. Okay. It is cell referencing and absolute referencing, and I've explained that now. Now, I want to see what is the total amount that father has spent, meaning sum all the father expenses. Okay, so I am going to be summing if I see father. Okay, or I'm going to be summing if I see mother. All right, so equals to sum if. The idea about Excel functions is this: if you can read these arguments, okay, arguments are what goes into your bracket. If you can read and understand what is required of that function, you'll be able to use the function. So sum if is asking for range. This range is where you will apply your criteria. Which range is that? The row. I will highlight this all the way down. B1 to B91, isn't it? Comma. The criteria is what? It should be father. I will select father. When I select father, you see that it says I2. That is cell I2. Comma. Now, the sum range. Which range are you summing? Which range do I want to sum? This range, isn't it? So I will select it all the way down. And then I'll close my brackets. Okay, so use absolute reference here. And then use absolute reference here as well. Okay, and then press enter. So it sums all the value, all the amounts my father has spent so far. Okay, so if I double click this, boom. All right, now for those of you that are asking, oh, absolute reference, cell reference. Now you will see that in this first cell, I reference I2, which is father. My range is B1 to B91, D1 to D91. But when I come here, it's still B1 to B91, which is my sum range. D1 to D91. But the criteria has moved to I3 because as it came down, because I did not use absolute reference here, this one came down as well. For the next one too, it has moved to I4 because I did not use absolute reference. But this one still remains B1 to B91. Okay, so assuming I did not use absolute reference for this one too will be showing me B3 to B94, meaning it will now start the summing from here. Okay, so what if this particular place is sun? It won't sum that one up. Okay, I haven't sent the attendance list. Are you in a hurry to leave the class? Please stop distracting us with the attendance list. I already said I was going to send it when I send it. Okay, so for the count, back here, particulars. All right, so we want to see how many times water appears, car maintenance, food, airtime, internet, and so on and so forth. Okay, how many times? Pause to count if, open bracket. The range, I'll simply go back there. I'll highlight the range. Okay, comma, come back here. The criteria, water. I'll close my bracket, press enter. You see that? So I'll use absolute reference here. And then double click all the way. So the sum if as well, which is the total, equals to sum if. The range is what? This range first. Highlight it all the way down, comma. The criteria is what? It is water, comma. The sum range is the amount column. So I'll go back to the amount column and I'll highlight it all the way down. Okay, then I'll use absolute reference here. I'll use absolute reference here. And then I'll close my bracket and press enter. Then I'll double click. So this is analysis. Okay, imagine I give you this data. I just give you this data and I say, okay, what is the total amount spent on food so far? This is analysis. Because nobody will tell you, use count if to get the number of times food appears. Or use sum if to get the total amount spent on food. All they will simply ask you is, oh, what is the total amount spent on food so far? You see that? Okay, so now I want to get the number of times father have spent money on water. Number of times father have spent money on car maintenance. Number of times father have spent money on food. How can I fill father into all this place? Then fill mother into all this place. Then fill daughter into all this place. You can see how handy these techniques come in now. How do I do that? Some people say flash fill, flash fill, flash fill. Says it's not flash, it's not called flash fill. It's called fill a range. Very good, very good. So I'm going to highlight that range. Highlight the range all the way down, isn't it? And I'll come to find and select. Go to special, blanks. So we are familiar with this before. Equals to this, control, enter. Beautiful. Okay, so we're familiar with that before. And for those of you that are just joining, I believe you should have watched that on the second video, either the second or the third. Okay, so you should be familiar with fill a range as well. Now, count. Because I'm counting based on two criteria now, I cannot use count if. I need to use count ifs. I am counting based on two criteria now. I want to see how many times father have spent on water, father have spent on car maintenance, father have spent on food. So I'll be using count ifs equals to count ifs, open brackets. Okay, the criteria range 1 is what? I want to count father, isn't it? But it's asking for the range first. So I need to go to where I have role here. I will highlight this all the way down, comma. Criteria 1 is what? Father. I'll come back here, select father, comma. Criteria range 2 is where I can find the particulars. I'll come back here. I'll highlight the particulars all the way down. Criteria 2 is the particulars. I'll come back here, select the particulars. That was a mistake. I'm coming. Good. Select the particulars. Okay. And then close my bracket. So my first range, I'll use absolute reference. So when do you use absolute reference, Joy? When you are working with range or array, okay, and you want to make sure that no matter how you replicate the formula, maybe down the column or across the row, it does not change. The reference you made does not change. Okay, I'll press enter. Then I'll come here, double click all the way down. All right, so the difference between count ifs and count ifs is that count if, which is a single one, allows you to only perform based on one criteria. Count ifs allow you to perform based on multiple criterias. Okay, so initially we were counting how many times they spent money on water. But this time around, I'm counting how many times father spent money on water. So meaning it will count where it says father and water. That is 2 criterias. If it is 3 criteria as well, it is possible. Okay, so doing the same thing for total. Okay, how much did father spend on water in total? So this is 2 criteria. So I'll use my sum if with an S, sum ifs, open brackets. Okay, the sum range is what? You can see that I'm not working based on how it was before. I am reading what I have here. So this one is asking for the sum range first, which is the income or the amount column. I will highlight it all the way down. Okay, that is the sum range. That is the range I want to sum. Comma. Now it's asking for criteria range 1. Okay, so I want to apply this criteria further. Where is the range? This is the range in the data. Highlight it all the way down. Comma. Then criteria 1 is what? It should equal further. I select this. Comma. Criteria range 2 is what? For the particulars. I'll come back to my data. Criteria range 2 for the particulars. Highlight that column all the way down. Comma. Criteria 2 is the particulars. I'll come back here and select the particulars. I will close my bracket. Use absolute reference here and absolute reference here. You can see anywhere I see range, I'm just using absolute reference. This one that is single I did not use. It's fine. I'll use absolute reference here as well. And then press enter. So this is the total amount Father I've spent on water alone. So if I do all the way down, so you can see wherever there is 0, you can see that it tallies, meaning no amount was spent. You see that, meaning he could not find any instance where Father spent money on shop. There was no instance like that. Do you see that? Okay. So that is how to use the count ifs function. Now, I have this short task for us to do right here in class. In the next time is almost 8:40. Let's say in the next 10 minutes. Okay, then after this, we'll take questions. Then I show you your assignment and we'll call it a day. So I want to get the total per month. I want to get the total for each month. Okay, the total amount for each month. Okay, now how can I do that? Who is going to help me? Let me close this in so that we can see it clearly. So how can we do that? I want to get the total. I want to get the total for each month. I can use sum if. Okay, sum if. Very good, very good. So we know the formula to use. Good. Some people are still saying count. After all the shouting and explanation that we did today, I said total. When I said total and you are saying count, how does it correlate? You did not even say count if again. Okay, so I'm using sum if. Good. Now, what are the months in the first instance? What are the months? This is how we need to think. Imagine you are given this data and they say, okay, so what is the total spent for each month? First and foremost, what are the months exactly? What are the months? Let's reason together. Okay, so take it as I also don't know anything about this. So what are the months in the first instance? Or how can I get the months?